New conversation. Let's talk, think about it. Let's get it together. Together we can do it. Oh, out of the box. Think out of the box. Out of the box. Out of the box. Out of the box. Think out of the box. Out of the box. Out of the box.
Welcome to Touch the World Radio Show, the Out of the Box podcast edition. I am your host, J Got Soul. You are tuned into the third segment of the Out of the Box podcast. Thank you to you that those of you that are tuned in so far, and I would like to ask you all to share this broadcast so we can reach as many people as possible. But before we get on with the show, let's begin with a word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for having Coach McKenzie in this studio with us this evening. We ask that you just give your spirit, bring your spirit in the studio and allow us to have a great conversation. Let's, just have a good time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Before we get started, please do me a favor and head over to jgotsoul.com to read up on the articles that I've taken time to produce. You can also hear previous interviews from my appearances on Touch the World Radio Show. Let me not forget to mention the merchandise with signature tees and hoodies. jgotsoul.com is an online platform that intends to educate about African American progress and challenge our community to take inventory of our finances so that we can focus on building generational wealth for our families. I guarantee you will not leave this website the same way you entered. All of your feedback is encouraged and welcome. So thank you in advance for your support. Now, tonight's topic is mentorship. Our guest this evening is my mentor in life and sports. Tonight we'll be discussing the impact of mentorship. Growing up in South Central Los Angeles, I encountered many experiences that almost led me down the wrong path. And if it weren't for the mentorship of Coach Hadley, I don't know where I would be today. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest this evening. Our guest is head girls basketball coach of Sarah High School, a phenomenal educator. Help me welcome our guest this evening, Coach McKenzie Hadley.
Yeah.
So Coach Hadley, tell us about your story.
Wow. Story. I don't know. I think everybody lives an interesting life. No one's life is any more interesting than anyone else's. Some things that we do, people take a little more stock into and a little more inventory into. For me, I was born in inner city Los Angeles. My mother and father have always been my biggest mentors. They've always been my biggest source of strength. They've always been my biggest critics, but my biggest fans as well. And so growing up in inner city Los Angeles, they always provided me with a stable foundation. They did a great job of being an example to me of what being a black person should be. My father always held his head up high and demanded with respect. My mom always did her best to be a soft but steady force in any situation that she was a part of. So those were my examples. Growing up, I had a chance to attend some wonderful schools. I went to Sarah High School, 1991, but I graduated from a school called LACIS in 1992. From there, I went off to a plethora of different colleges, college experiences. Went to Morehouse for 2 weeks. Came back home because a dear friend of mine was killed out there while we were at Morehouse in an off-campus incident. And for me, that was enough to say, come on home. So I came on home and I went to USC for a little bit, decided to stop going to school and decided to start working. Somewhere within that process, I began to coach. And the rest is history in terms of that. So, my story is a story with various experiences. all good. I think that God really prepares us for who he needs us to be through the experiences he allows us to have. We may see them as negatives, but what the world and what the devil intended to be for our harm, God has a way of turning it around for our good. So that's pretty much my story. I have a lot of details in between, but here we are today, and I'm able to be here on the radio with you, enjoying seeing you be the beautiful, wonderful, inspirational woman that you are today. So
Thank you. So let's talk about how we met. This
Okay.
is, this has been a long time coming, so I'm excited about this conversation.
Okay.
How do you remember me when we first met?
Wow. I think the word that would come to mind would be energetic. I remember seeing you on the basketball court, and you were playing for what I consider an inner city legend, a guy named Jeff Page, affectionately known by many as Fat Rat. And he had put together a team of young ladies, and I remember seeing you, and you stood out. You had a great leadership quality about you. You played with a lot of heart, a lot of energy, and a lot of determination. And for me, those types of traits are attractive to me. Those are the qualities that end up producing great leaders, great people who have an impact on the lives of others. And so at the time, I believe that we were putting together, I was putting together a team with some other young ladies who were kind of coming around, and I just knew that I had to have you on my team. So I spoke to Jeff. Jeff said it was okay for you to come and play, and we took it from there. You were always a phenomenal player. You were always a great leader. You were always a person that I thought would have great benefit to those around you. So that's my first memory of you.
Awesome. I remember seeing you in camp at Chateau Park. You would come in and we'll be playing dodgeball, and you'll be running around with all the kids and things like that. And for me, I saw you, and you were just as athletic as I wanted to be in my mind. so I just, I saw the energy that came from you too. Like, everybody loved you. And when I first started playing for you, like, the way you coached me was with so much positivity, with so much encouragement, and I felt like I can do anything, So we spent so much time together too. I felt like I was kind of like isolated, but I was isolated in a way where it was positive for me, because clearly, my past, I was getting in a lot of trouble. So you kind of just veered me off that wrong path and just put me right in the place where I needed to be, and I appreciate that. So I'm happy to have you in here today, because if it weren't for you, I probably wouldn't have went to college. I probably wouldn't have been at the high school that I was at either. So I just wanted to show you in person how much you mean to me. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about your coaching career.
Okay.
Where did that start, and where did it lead you?
Okay, so I played for a club team called the K&E Bulls, a pretty significant program in the 80s and 90s in terms of inner city basketball, for a coach named Tiny Edmund Flanoy. And Tiny was ex-military guy. He decided that he, in addition to a guy named Kevin, would put together a team. And that's where you get the K&E Bulls from, Kevin and Edmund Bulls. And we played. He took inner city kids. He took whoever came through the gym. Very little recruitment. It was just all about whoever wanted to come in and be grimy and gritty and work hard and determined. And he typically took the kids who most programs didn't want. And we trained like no other. We would run miles. We would do the skill development. But his motto, his mantra stood on that we were going to be the toughest team, and we were going to play the hardest, and we were going to be in the best shape. And so with that being said, I came up through his program. When I got to be 16, he had grown to such a magnitude that he couldn't coach all of the different programs. And one thing that I remember about myself is that for some unknown reason, I had always been selected to be a leader or a captain, or I had always find myself being put into motivational situations where I can motivate others. And so at the age of 16, he asked me if I would be willing to coach his 12 and under team. And it was a great honor for me. Growing up through the program, I had so much appreciation for who he was and who he had been in my life, that it was an honor. And so that was the beginning of my coaching career. So I had 12 and under boys. At the time, I had just gotten my driver's license, and so I was picking these kids up, and we would go to games, and we would go to tournaments, and after the games and tournaments, we would sit down and we would have lunch. A lot of these kids came from homes that where the parents couldn't even afford to give them money enough to eat after the game or in between games. And so I remember my parents encouraging me in that regard. My dad was my first teacher of note. My mom was a great supporter. My dad would always take the neighborhood kids and buy them the ice cream cones. He would take us to practice. He would take the kids in the neighborhood to the beach. And so in some innate way, through almost osmosis, that became who I was. And so, that was a natural extension of my parents stemming through me. So that was my beginning in coaching. I went from there, coached club for a little bit, took a little break as I went to college and finished up high school, went to college. Shortly thereafter, I ended up running into you guys. And at the same time, I was finishing up or getting started coaching at a school called Laces, which is where I went to high school. So around the age of 21 or so, 22, I began to coach at Laces. I did that for about 8 years. As you guys transitioned and got older, most of you guys ended up going to the same high school, which was Sarah High School. And that was just a natural fit because I worked at a middle school down the street as a teacher. As things continue, I had an opportunity to coach with you guys as an assistant coach at Sarah High School on the girls' side. And then shortly thereafter, I was offered the head coach position. So we're looking at, let me see, how old am I now? Ooh, okay, shucks. Do the math on that. We're looking at 20 plus years of coaching. Almost 30 years of coaching, actually.
Wow.
Almost 30 years.
Wow. Sounds like you definitely accomplished a lot. Thank you for sharing that with us. So right now we're going to take a short break. Bankhead, can you play Promotional 2? And then from there we're going to go right into I Got It by Sharif.
That's my jam. Sing background.
Bring your youth, family, friends to Hip Hop Church LA Outreach Ministry. We have services on the third Sundays during the months of February, April, June, August, October, and December. We have artists who come and minister in rap, crump and praise dance, singers, and spoken word. Gigi Sweet is our DJ who keeps the praise party rocking. Service begin at 5 p.m. For more information, you can go to hiphopchurchla.org, call us at 323-557-3803, or email info@hiphopchurchla.org. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And always remember, don't get it twisted. God has always existed.
I ain't here for you preaching to me, I got it. Quality, you can't teach it to me, I got it. More than just another feeling to me, I got it. I got a phone but don't call on people no more. Used to, but the line was always busy. I'm starting to think that's what friends are for. Now you see I got it, don't get friendly. I guess I should be grateful. If you were still my partner, I'd be chillin'. But that's not what I'm made for. Guess I'm just now seeing my potential. But now I'm on my way, pulling double days. It's a little late for you to see I'm different now. I ain't here for you preaching to me, I got it. Quality, you can't teach it to me, I got it. More than just another feeling to me, I got it. I ain't asking you to get it with me, I got it. I got it. No, really, I got it. Quality, you can't teach it to me, I got it. I got it. No, really, I got it. I ain't asking you to get it with me, I got it. 3 a.m. on a Monday, I'm doing work, nigga, stay up. When I ball on the track and I take it to the rack, too easy. Lay up. You're too cheesy.
You are tuned in to Touch the World Radio Show, the third episode of the Out of the Box podcast edition. We are joined in studio with special guest, Coach McKenzie Hadley. So, Coach Hadley, what does the term mentorship mean to you?
Mentorship to me means helping others to become their best, helping people to be the best version of themselves within the limited ability and experience that you have. And so what I mean by that is you have to have a heart of service. You have to want to help other people. You have to be willing to invest the time and the energy, the effort. But you can only show people what you have. And because we don't have it all, we can't really give it all. But what we have to give and what has to shine through is the fact that we're concerned about the people who are our mentees, the people that we are mentoring. And so for me, as I mentioned before, my father, he is my first remembrance of anything positive. My father, I remember him going to West LA College when I was 5 or 6 years old, and he would get us up on Saturday mornings 6, 7 o'clock, and we had a chalkboard that he had bought and put in the backyard, and we would have to go and do his basic arithmetic homework on that board. You turn around and you look at me 25, 30 years later, and I'm a math teacher. You know what I'm saying? So he gave me the best of him. At the time, it was just the drive to go out and to be productive academically. He cared enough to have me out there, even as I was very resistant to those early mornings. But he knew that I needed to have that discipline, and he gave that to me. And that was the best he had to give. And, you allow God to work in these situations, and what we find is that our best is more than enough for God to do what he has to do. So mentorship to me is just taking some concern in other people, deciding to be involved in their lives and helping them to become the best that they can be within the limitations that we have as mentors.
I can definitely relate to that. The piece that you mentioned about your father and how you took those pieces from him, and I remember the things that you showed me. Like, when we have conversations, you don't just tell me what to do. You make me think, and you make me think it out and talk it out. That was something that I wasn't used to. And then on top of that, just with the coaching aspect of it and just always being there and pushing me to put some work in. You in the gym all night, you gonna get your homework done and you gonna go in and put up some shots, And so that led me to college. When I when I wasn't able to play my freshman year, then I chose not to play my sophomore year. Then my junior year, I was like, I need to get back on the court. Like, I want to do it. And what I would do is get up at 6 a.m., go to Van Ness Park, work out, get my workouts in and do what I need to do to get back in shape.
Yeah.
And then when I got back to school, it was no problem for me to get on the team, So it's just like that work ethic that was taught to me. I just took it with me and bam, I, received my 1 ring, even though you over there with 6 on your hand.
Hard work
I'm
pays
still
off.
jealous. No, but that led me to that experience. Like, I wouldn't have been that winner. I wouldn't have been that player or that person to do that for myself if it weren't for you pushing me to do that. So
I appreciate that. Well, let me just also add this component to everybody who's listening. everybody is a mentor. It's just a matter of whether or not you're going to be a positive, intentional mentor or whether or not you're going to have a negative impact on others. Literally, we spend our lives rubbing off on one another. And if you can imagine, each one of us is a brand new red, blue, black shirt, brand new out of the package, dye, still wet. And every time we interact with someone, we're going to rub off and we're going to leave a remembrance of our presence on other people. And if you're not intentional, if we're not intentional about being positive ourselves and also giving positive, what we find is what we leave on people are nasty stains, are negative scars. And so with me, I took being a mentor very serious, because I realized that a lot of people who were younger than me, and even some people who were my age or older, they looked to me for guidance. And so part of the burden of being a positive mentor is that you have to carry yourself to a certain standard. A teacher of mine, Mr. Chavez from Sarah High School, he got this quote and he gave it to us, and it was from someone else, so let me not ignore whoever the quote came from. But he said, whenever possible, preach a sermon, and only when necessary, use words. And so what he's saying, and what was said in that, is that every moment of your life, you're going to be giving someone something. And it should be by example, not simply by what you say. The example should go forth before you. And so I always tried to live that way. I tried to make sure I was a good example to you guys, and that I backed up the things that I asked you to do by being first to do those things and to show you those things. So God has blessed me with a heart of love, as disseminated through my parents, and I don't know any other way to be other than just to try to love those around me, because I think that that's our mission from God, is to make everybody else around us better. So.
Well, I definitely agree with that being a part of, your repertoire. You know how to make someone else great.
Oh, thank you.
So let's talk about your successes in coaching. You have 6 of them on your hand.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. So, the rings, as Jessica mentioned,
Put them up to the camera. Put them up to the camera.
Oh, these things.
Yeah.
These things. Yeah. But these are simply emblems, reminders of a lot of just principles. Some things that I try to be about in my life is setting goals, seeking to obtain those goals, creating a lifestyle of discipline, creating a lifestyle of character. As a teacher, I really try to just continue to just put forth this mindset of, in every opportunity you have to do work, seek to get better. And so if we take the example of a person who has been asked to told to do push-ups by a coach, some people on the team are going to be looking at the coach and looking for every opportunity to count 1, 2, 3, 7, 15, 20. Coach is not looking, you're not pushing up. And some people take those opportunities to say, let me do all 20 of those push-ups and let me attempt to get better. And the success I've had as a coach is a byproduct of an attempt to build character and culture in every young person that I have an opportunity to coach. I try to allow our kids to know, our players to know, that it's about improvement. And if you really are about improvement and you embrace the mindset of improvement, what you will do is you will never cheat yourself in a workout. You never need a coach to demand from you. And now I'm trying to move into teaching our kids that they are worth more than anyone else can possibly see in them. So if your coach asks you to do 20 push-ups, tells you to do 20 push-ups, do 20 because the coach asked you to do the 20, do them right, but then turn around and give yourself more, because you always owe yourself a little bit more. We don't want to be average. We want to be extraordinary. Not all of us have the same measure of talent, the same giftedness, but we all have the ability to work hard, and we can all see ourselves as some tremendous finished product. Not where we are today, but we can see ourselves in terms of who we possibly can be in the future. And so that's a culture that I've tried to instill in each one of my teams. Consequently, we have multiple state championships as a girls basketball program. We have multiple CIF championships. I am 2-time state coach of the year, which is inclusive of our whole coaching staff, not just myself. That's Coach Derek, Coach Will, Coach Russell, Coach V, Coach Martell, Coach Jaquette, Coach Kevin, all the coaches on the staff. Those are group accolades. But even bigger than that, we have 50 or 60 young ladies who have actually gone to college and had their college in some ways paid for because of the athletics that we've had an opportunity to be involved with. And so when you think about the importance of teaching character before the skill, what you don't have to worry about is whether or not you're going to have good students, because if the character says I need to work hard, then that's going to apply to the classroom. It's going to apply to being a good friend, and then also to being a good player. So I think for anyone listening, if you want to build a successful program, try to build successful people. Invest more time into mentoring, into growing your kids into great people, and then the determination and grit that you want in the game will come.
Okay. So I think you touched a little bit on this, but I still wanted to see what you would say to this question. What do you hope to instill in your players?
I hope to instill an attitude of one tree can become a forest. So what do I mean by that? Literally, the purpose of a tree is to produce some type of seed. Typically, the seed is produced through the fruit. The purpose of the fruit is to be eaten, gathered by some animal of some kind, disseminated into other parts of fertile ground, and then that seed becomes a tree itself, whose purpose is to produce other seeds, to produce other trees. And so what I try to instill in my players is the understanding that one day, God willing, you will be a parent. One day, God willing, you will have some influence over someone who's looking at you. What do you want them to become? Whatever that is. Typically, if you have a heart that is about others, you want them to be the best that they can be. If that's the case, be willing to sacrifice to show them how to be that, not simply tell them to be that. And so with each person that I meet, I try to hold them to a high standard. I'm known as the coach who snatches the cupcakes and the donuts and the sodas out of the hands of the girls as they're walking through campus, because I want them to be their best. I'm also known as the coach who's willing to help out with the homework. I'm also known as the coach who's willing to have the difficult conversations with the players as well as with their parents. And so I want them to take with them that someone outside of their family loves them, and that it's okay to extend that love to others. That God is the solution to all problems. That working hard will always bring you a measure of positive outcome, and that we should always be the best people we can be. And then that extends once again into every aspect of their lives, including sports. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we've been so successful. That's why we have so many young ladies who are so productive, so many women now that are so productive in society, just because you have a chance to just grow the character. Mm-hmm. As you know, we have just started an alumni group with our school, which you were the spearhead of that group. And so now I get a chance to see all of the women who were once young ladies, and just to see how, we have 30 women who are involved, alumni of the school, who are just doing positive things, doctors, branding, starting their own businesses, attorneys, social work, accountants, a myriad of different things. And I think all of those things have been spurred through just hard work, integrity, character, and just trying to be the best that they can possibly be. So that's what I would like to give anybody who I come in contact with. That's the stain I want to leave on whoever I touch.
That's definitely inspiring, and I know for a fact, just by us being able to start the group, the SWAG group, how much inspiration you've put into all of us. Like every time we're on those meetings, I'm like super excited, but just kind of stunned at like how big this legacy really is. going from the start of Sarah, which was my senior year, to all the way to where we are now, and then going back and just rebuilding. Like, I couldn't imagine anything more fulfilling, so it's really exciting. It's super exciting.
It is. And that's the dream that I think any coach has, to know that what we've tried to instill at some point has become transformative and has become a fundamental tenet of who that person is. I think coaches, we think it's about the X's and the O's and the wins. And I'll tell you, there's no greater win than seeing someone that you care about be successful. And just as an aside, for people who struggle with emotional difficulty, one thing that I would like to recommend is, if you are struggling, try helping other people. The best medicine for my soul, the thing that brings me out of my funk, is when I have an opportunity to give to someone else. There's something just innately satisfying, and that brings a certain joy to a person's spirit when you have an opportunity to be who God has called you to be. There's no gift that God has given you that he wants you to keep to yourself. And, I don't care if it's your money. I don't care if it's a piece of bread. I don't care if it's that car. I don't care what it is. Any gift that God has given you is to be shared and to be given. And so if you really want to find some happiness and some joy, try giving. I learned that early. I saw that early. I saw how much joy it brought my parents to just be givers to the kids in the community, and they've been 100% right with that. So for me to see who you guys have become through my small ability to give and share my experience and my relationship with God has really touched my heart. And it's always emotional for me. I mean, I'm always on the verge of tears when we have these meetings, just to see the new people who are coming in, the young ladies that we've lost contact with who have found their way to the group, to know that the school and to know that I have meant enough to them for them to want to come back and to contribute. It means that I've done something right and God is smiling on me. So I appreciate you for what you have started with the group and where this group has to go.
No problem. And we're going to take a short break. Blankhead, please play promotional number, I believe it's number 1, and the insurance, and Move On You by Kaylon. And we'll be right back.
Hey family, this is Lady Eva J. I wanted to take this time to have a serious conversation with you. I have been given a new assignment to touch the world in a different way. Our lives have all been shifted in this recent pandemic, and we have lost family, friends, and loved ones. Here's the hard part. No one wants to talk about being insured. Well, my new assignment is to educate families on how to financially invest in themselves, while also making sure they're covered correctly when God calls them home. Do you have life insurance? Do you know what you really have? Are you sure you're covered in the correct way? Have you invested so you don't have to pay life insurance your whole life? Yes, I said your whole life. Well, let's talk about it. Let's make sure our families don't have to find money to lay us to rest. Call me at 323-494-9585. Once again, that's 323-942-9585. And let's have a brief conversation about it. After all, I'm here to serve you. This is Lady Eva J, and I'm out.
Can I talk to you? Can you talk to me? Can I talk to you? Can you talk to me?
I'm the same one that's so down, one that's gonna pick you up, one that's gonna say I die. 2 minutes, I'm a baby. Oh, girl. And when you get that one, you gotta know how to stay. You gotta know how to stay. wish that I can move on you. Can I talk to you? Can you talk to me? I wanna move on you, girl. Can I talk to you? Can you talk to me? I wanna move on you, girl. I just get that energy. Somebody that's gonna be my inner peace. I need one to hold me down. She don't mind keeping me company. 2 arms hold me tight. Talking about that staying up, treat you right. Lay our head on each other's shoulder. I know you want that every day and night. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Said I need you, girl. And I want you, girl. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Tell me what you wanna do. Can I talk to you? Can you talk to me? I want you, girl. Can I talk to you? Can you talk to me? I want you, girl. Can I talk to you? Can you talk to me? I want you, girl. Can I talk to you? Can you talk to me?
You are tuned in to Touch the World radio show. In case you're just joining us, we are in studio with special guest Coach McKenzie Hadley. So, Coach, what was your process like developing your coaching style?
My coaching style, there's a saying in coaching, there's nothing new. Everything is stolen. Everything is borrowed. So it's basically just how you choose to put it together. So as a coach, I definitely take from my early coaching experience, even my early playing experience. So I remember being 6 years old. My dad tells me to go to the park, and he tells me to find out if there's a basketball league going on at the park. I had played in the league the year before when I was 5. It was like Pee Wee basketball. And I had had such a horrible experience because there was just one kid on the team who was just the best. This kid was phenomenal. And, he would score 24 to 26 points. Some other kid would score 2. Some days it was me, some days it was somebody else. So I turn around as a coach and I say, wow, I don't want my kids to ever experience that. So part of my coaching style is I try to get every single player on my team involved. I try to give them a role. I try to give them something that they can feel pride in executing, and allowing them to know and understand that they are a part of the win. They are a part of the chemistry of the game. So that's part of my coaching style. Also, the coach I played with when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, which I mentioned before with the K&E Bulls. He was a pressing coach. He believed in honing and building the athleticism of the players, having us in tip-top condition. I remember being 12 and 13 and 14 years old, and everybody on my AAU team was dunking a basketball. And I'm like, wow, that's unheard of. But, he would just work us so hard. And so that became part of my coaching style. When I was a younger high school coach, and I coached on the boys' side, and I don't know if I touched on that, but when I was at Laces High School, myself and a guy named Ernest Baskerville, we were so immature as coaches that we would wrestle with our kids, stuff that you would just get fired for today, stuff like that. And so what I learned from that experience is that kids love to have a relationship with their coaches. If they have a relationship, there's not much that they won't do. What I also learned when I started coaching you guys on the girls' side is that you can't really say everything that you want to say the way that you want to say it. I've never been a big cursor in terms of with my players, but I had to hone that in even more, especially as I tried to keep you guys from using profanity, I had to be an example of that. One of my most embarrassing but also fondest memories was a time that we were playing, and I think it was at a Chateau Park or something, and we lost a game, all girls team playing against all boys team, and it was my birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And, I gave it to y'all pretty good, A lot of people crying, a lot of people, y'all, I wish I had another team. Y'all disappointed me so much. We're supposed to win. Y'all don't have no heart. I can't stand y'all. And then, being called into the back room as a 22-year-old coach, and the parents are saying, we need to talk to you, coach. And big old birthday cake and ice cream, and you guys are all sobbing, singing happy birthday to you, all in tears. So what I learned is that I had to kind of be careful how I spoke to the young ladies in order to keep the emotional integrity intact. So my coaching style has developed throughout the years. I think for me, if I had to just sum it up really quickly, it would be being physically, mentally, emotionally prepared for as many circumstances as we can foresee and anticipate, building a relationship amongst my players and also with the team, with the coaches, so that there's nothing that we can't ask of each other in terms of sacrifice and energy and effort in order to do our best to win the game, within the bounds of fairness, of course, and in integrity to the game. So I think that's my style, just playing hard, pressing the heck out of people, and trying to break people's wheels. So
yeah, we were definitely fast break. That was the name of our team, fast break, and all we did was run. So you couldn't really keep up. If you did, you was pretty lucky. So so what was the most important lessons you've learned from coaching?
I think I stated it before. What I've gotten from coaching, what I've learned is that giving is a safe haven, and it is a place of protection of your own spirit. There's no place that I feel more at home. There's no place that I feel, well, maybe other than being actually at home, but there's no place that I feel more comfortable than when I'm coaching. Because I think in its purest form, coaching is about teaching, inspiration, motivation, education. And I think that those are all of the things that God has put in us naturally that make us feel good. I often tell people, you really don't know love until you have kids. And when you have an opportunity to coach someone else's kids and to pour that love and to see that appreciation and see that look in their eye, it matters. There's not too many people who have a heart that can look at a kid and see them go through something and do something that you ask them to do and come out with a positive outcome, and you don't have a feeling about that. And so what I've learned from coaching is that I'm pretty good at it, but that it's a great, safe, happy, wonderful place, and that God has gifted me with some things that I have to give to other people. And so I've been pretty successful with that. And so, yeah.
What would you say is, this is a random question that I just thought of.
Okay.
What would you say is like the most difficult situation you faced with your coaching career?
I think on a consistent basis, dealing with parents is probably the most difficult dynamic. Times have changed, and I'm sure you've heard this. There used to be a time when the teacher or the coach says something, the parent hears it, and the parent is saying to the child, well, what did you do wrong? You need to do this better. Don't let it happen again. Now the time has come where a coach says something to a parent or a kid is being disciplined in some way, and the coach is the bad person. The coach is this horrible person. The times have changed. We have gotten away from the understanding that discipline is love. Discipline is love. Discipline is love. Discipline is love. And we've gotten to the place where instant gratification and satisfaction is what people are interested in. And so it doesn't even matter kind of what the kid brings to the team, attitude-wise, skill-wise. Parents have this grandiose expectation that their kid is going to be the next, whatever that is, and is going to receive every accolade that there is to give. The MVP trophy can only go to one, at most maybe two people. Otherwise, if you give it to everybody, it's simply a participation trophy.
Right.
You know, but everybody wants their kid to be the MVP, and everybody has this unreasonable expectation that no matter what the kid does, it doesn't matter. Just give me the trophy. So for me, dealing with those types of situations, whenever you have the care of someone's kid, it changes that person into a different person. There's some people that I have great relationship with to this day, but while I coach their kid, it was always tenuous. It was always strained. It was always something there. And that's another lesson that I've learned is just how to treat other people's kids and the need for communication. So I would say dealing with parents is my biggest challenge, has been my biggest challenge. And so we have some pretty decent parents this year. Relationships have grown and have matured, and I think we're going to have a good season. But parents, please, make good decisions on where you send your kids and trust the process that the coach is taking your kid through. Starting as a freshman may seem like the way to go, but really what you want is for that person as a senior to have developed the skills necessary to be an independent person who can make good decisions. And so whatever that process needs to look like, allow that process to happen. If you trust the coach, trust the coach.
Okay. Last question. What advice would you have for aspiring coaches?
For me, I think every coach who's getting into the coaching game, there's a couple of things that I would recommend. One, I would recommend going down to your local rec center and coaching a team. Learning how to coach kids that you don't have a chance to handpick, that you don't have a chance to just grab the best kids. Just being able to grab or get whatever kids come to you. Excuse me. Learning how to develop the relationships with the parents, having to call for practice, having to inform parents on how the kid did is invaluable experience. Also focusing on teaching the game and teaching the love of the game. You can teach all the skills you want. If your kids hate coming to practice, they hate playing because it's, too arduous, too difficult, you're not going to get the development that you want. So develop the love for the game. Develop the love for the hard work. After that, be willing to learn from others. As I said before, a lot of things in coaching have been borrowed, stolen, used, that other people have done, however you want to term it. So be willing to listen, be willing to learn, and be willing to invest some time in terms of kind of the internship of coaching. Be willing to get onto a coaching staff at a level that you are aspiring to, or a level higher than where you are at the time, and be willing to learn, which means you also have to do your research. You have to find somebody that you think can teach you. You have to be open enough to learning from that person, and you have to be willing to tweak that person's philosophy into your philosophy as you see fit. So those are kind of my suggestions. Don't be afraid to study. Don't be afraid to pick up a book. It's really not where you begin, because we all began with deficits. We all were once kids learning how to walk because we couldn't walk. All we could do was crawl. So we all start from humble beginnings, but being willing to learn, be willing to invest into your craft, and to learn from others, I think are keys that will help anybody aspiring to be a coach to become a successful coach.
All right, well, you heard it here. All right, you guys, so we're going to wrap up the show this evening. Thank you all for tuning in this evening with our in-studio guest, Coach McKenzie Hadley. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. We have enjoyed the show. I'll be back in the studio the first Sunday of November. You never know who we'll have in the studio next, so be sure to tune in. All right, so Bankhead, can you please take us out with Celebration by Sharif? You guys have a good evening. Peace.
Be blessed.